Matteen Rad, voice of the Athens Rock Lobsters, here with a very special edition of Lobster Tales. Joining me on today's episode is UGA Ice Dawgs broadcaster Ren Grimsley. He, along with the team, is preparing for this upcoming weekend's College Hockey South playoffs. This includes both the men's and women's teams, and it takes place from February 7th through the 9th. Ren, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
100%. It's the first season for pro hockey here in Athens, but ice hockey has been no stranger to the Classic City. For those who don't know, how long have the UGA Ice Dawgs been a part of the Athens community?
The Ice Dawgs have been around since 1987, which is, I think, surprising to a lot of people, especially those who even still today will be like, oh, I didn't know UGA had a hockey team. And it's like, yeah, we've been kicking for a long time now.
I think what's interesting about it is, UGA has such an obvious, rich sports culture. And of course, football is going to take the headlines more often than not. But how have the Ice Dawgs carved out their own identity with the Athens sports scene being what it is?
Yeah, I mean, coming to the arena here in Athens has certainly helped now with more of a permanent home. Before the Ice Dawgs were playing in the Classic Center in a ballroom that they had sort of built a temporary rink in. And then in the winter, they would play outside at the pavilion, which was super cool to play outdoors, especially down in the South. But I think that it's really helped coming to this arena now.
What has the energy been like that you've seen in Akins Ford Arena and the Athens community at Ice Dawgs games? And how do you think it's grown, in its long history?
I think it's really been cool to see. Before this past season, the team was playing in Duluth and in Cummings, so it was an hour drive away or an hour and a half away. So we didn't get a whole lot of students, especially. It was mainly parents or people who were close by. Now, I mean, these are all students at the university on the team, so they have their friends and their, fraternity brothers coming out and supporting them and making it more of a home crowd and giving that advantage to the team.
I think something that might be enticing for hockey fans here in Athens, it could be very enticing to get involved with the Ice Dawgs because it's not just one team that you're becoming a fan of, it's three. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Like you said, UGA has three club teams. They have the men's D1, the men's D3, and then the women's team. And I've been grateful and blessed with the opportunity to call games for all three of those teams and to meet the players and the coaches, because it really is a group of students who just love playing hockey because, they're not getting paid or anything. So just having people who enjoy the sport and who just love what they do is really cool to see, especially when, like I said, there's two different men's teams, a D1 and a D3. So really there's plenty of opportunities for those guys to play.
When and how did you get involved with the hockey program? Were you a fan of the team before playing a part?
I had gone to a few games when I was in high school. And then going into my freshman year of college, I saw that they were offering spots and applications for interns, one of those being for broadcasters. And being a sports broadcaster is something I wanted to do since I was in middle school. So I was like, even if I don't get it, I'm definitely going to apply for this. And I did. And I interviewed with Torrin Smith and Joe Kopshow, who started the broadcast for UGA and have just done great things. And they've helped me and helped teach me so much. And so then I was accepted when I was a freshman. So now this is my second season with the UGA Ice Dawgs broadcast team.
You said that middle school was when you kind of caught that spark. What made you interested in wanting to become a sports broadcaster?
Yeah, I don't exactly remember the year. I was 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, one of those three. But when my cousin graduated from high school, he didn't really know what he wanted to do. And I remember my parents talking about it, and they said that he should go into something like sports commentary, sports broadcasting, something to do with sports, because that was what he was really into. And I remember hearing that conversation and just being like, oh, wow, that's actually something that I could do and something that I'm interested in as well. And so I knew I wanted to go to UGA. Both my parents went to UGA. So I knew I wanted to go there, especially for the journalism and the sports media certificate program, which I am now a part of, and has just been a great opportunity to grow and learn and meet other people interested in sports and sports broadcasting.
I saw that. I mean, obviously, you're a student at UGA. I saw that your father was also a student at UGA. You just mentioned that your mother was as well. Are you an Athens native?
Not exactly. I'm from about 40 minutes from Athens. It's called Social Circle, Georgia. But I have been going to Georgia football games and tailgating in Athens since I was really little. And I remember my first concert was in Athens. So I'm not from Athens, but because my parents both went here and have a love for the city, I also have a love for the city and a history with it.
Your soul is from Athens. That's what matters. And
Exactly.
I guess my question is what made you fall in love with ice hockey? You know, I'm a Georgia native as well, and a lot of times I'm sure you, like myself, have a bunch of friends that are interested in sports, but you have friends that you say, "Oh, I'm a hockey fan," and they go, "Hockey fan? What's that about?" And of course, me and you know what makes hockey such an amazing sport. But how did you catch that bug when you were young?
I wish I had some cool story, but I really don't. I think it was just more of a gradual thing, honestly. I think it started with watching like ESPN top 10 highlights in the mornings before school. And then, seeing the fights, that's what everyone really loves. And everyone sort of gets drawn into the fighting. And then eventually I just started watching more and more of it. And then I fell in love with just the game in general and learning about it and all the players and the history. I think hockey's such a cool sport and so unique.
Well, that brings us to the hockey scene that's currently here in Athens. The Rock Lobsters are tearing up the FPHL, and the Ice Dogs are the hot team in college hockey South. The men's team have got a first round bye, and their tournament will open on Saturday. Who and what are going to be the roadblocks to the Ice Dogs winning this tournament, in your opinion?
I think that this current UGA team is one of the best they've ever had. Just absolutely phenomenal on both ends of the ice, as well as goaltending. Ryan Testino and Isaac Haugen are just a phenomenal duo. I think, the only other team that I would say is sort of the roadblock, like you mentioned, is Tennessee. That's their only loss this season, is against to the University of Tennessee, and it came at the Savannah Hockey Classic in the final game. But they played that game on Saturday, and then 2 days later on Monday, they beat Tennessee in Akins Ford Arena at home. So certainly, I think this team is capable of winning it all. I think that it's just if they come to play and if how much they want it.
And then meanwhile, the women's team, they just scratched their way in, and this is only the second ever CHS playoffs ever for women's hockey. They might have an outside chance, but what has this season been like for the women's team this year?
It certainly hasn't been as glorious as the men's team. This is only the third season for the women. So just seeing them grow, like I said, I got to call some games last season for them, and their whole goal right now is just growing the game for women in general. But they certainly have some really great players in Paige Alkis. She's phenomenal, and so they definitely have a chance if they come out ready to play as well.
The brand new state-of-the-art Akins Ford Arena has been a revelation for the city of Athens and obviously to the Athens hockey community as well. But in your opinion, what do you think are the big positives that the Ice Dogs have taken out of the building of the Akins Ford Arena?
Well, the crowd, first of all, has just been, like I said, really, really great to see them supporting their university. And then also, from my perspective, playing in Duluth is, an hour to an hour and a half away, depending on traffic. So now I can drive 10 minutes to the arena. That's, 2 to 3 hours of my day that is now free. And then my broadcast partner, Will Hopkins, he walks to the arena. So just having ease and it feels more like a university event when you leave the arena and you're still in Athens and you're not an hour away from Athens.
I want to make sure that the fans are aware of just how the CHS playoffs are going to go. For those who maybe in terms of the format, in terms of people who want to come out and support, what can fans expect with a CHS tournament this weekend?
Yeah, so it's 3 days. It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And like you mentioned, they clinched the number one spot, and UGA has a bye week or a bye day. And then after that, after the first round, they will reseed the standings. So UGA will play the lowest seed after the first round. And then from there, it's just single elimination until we have a winner.
I know you pointed out the goaltending duo for the strong UGA men's team, but what about some of the other personnel that have really impressed for the Ice Dogs this season?
Ryan Bailey has definitely been wonderful. He transferred in halfway through last season from a D3 team, from an NCAA D3 team, I should mention. And he leads the team in points right now. He's third in College Hockey South in points. He had a hat trick against Tennessee a couple weeks ago. And then just last night against Farmingdale State, he had 3 points as well. So he's been a great offensive contributor to this team. And then Robbie Whitwer, who's the captain, he's been the captain for a couple seasons now. And he's just a great leader and just an all-around great guy. Just getting to talk to him is phenomenal. He has so much insight and knowledge about this team and about how they work and how they can improve.
Obviously, there's been success for the Ice Dogs before, but with the arena, with the play of the team right now, they have that kind of big league feel to their team right now. And what do you think about the future for this program and the future for college hockey in the South in general?
I think the future for this team is as high as it could possibly be. Certainly the highest it's ever been. Now with the new arena, I mean, that is great for recruiting, playing in a big time arena that, a professional team plays in, because I've gotten to travel to some of the other rinks and some of the other, places that other club teams play in. And it's sort of like when we were playing in Duluth. It's just not the same scale as Akins Ford Arena. And then Coach Kemp has done a great job recruiting. He's getting, guys from both inside of Georgia, from the Atlanta area, as well as from Long Island and Minnesota and other places up north.
Just as well as I do, we're just coming off 3 straight double headers for the Ice Dogs and the Rock Lobsters. Sunday was actually a triple header with the addition of the D3 team playing last on Sunday. That's where me and you crossed paths again and said, hey, why don't we do this show and talk about the playoffs coming up? How do you think the play of both teams, especially going back to back like that, has helped the in-game atmosphere of both of their games?
I think certainly having 1, 2, 3 back to back, it was D1 and then the Rock Lobsters and then D3. It just feels like almost like a hockey city now. And I got to go to all 3 games, and there were fans there supporting their team. Fans just love hockey, I think, more than they realize. And they come to games not knowing anything and then walk out a hockey fan. So many of my friends who've never been to a hockey game, don't know anything about hockey, will go and will text me and be like, wow, I need to get more into hockey. Like, this is awesome. This is aggressive. It's fast paced. It has everything that I love about sports. So, and I completely agree with that.
Getting to broadcast this team in a very special season for its programs, what has been the most memorable moment for you in the booth watching the Ice Dogs down there so far? I mean, we saw that shootout win Saturday against Farmingdale State. You talked about the win against Tennessee, but for you, what has been the moment of glory for you, and maybe something that is special for you to look back on your call on, and something that you could save to your broadcast reel in the future?
I definitely think that shootout was something special a couple of days ago. That was the first shootout I ever got to call. I was doing play-by-play. I didn't really quite know what would be entitled in calling a shootout, but it was a lot of fun, and Georgia getting to come out with the win on that was awesome. And then I remember in a little story, obviously hockey guys on the ice are aggressive and can seem mean-spirited sometimes when they're chirping and hitting other guys. But I remember when I first started in my first game, it was my job to go down and interview players, and then we would put that up on the live stream. And so I remember Josh Mazzaros, it was against Clemson. And like I said, the first game I had gone to, and he had gotten like maybe 2 penalties already and was, chirping guys really hard, and you could hear it from everywhere. And then I went down there and I was like, hey Josh, can I get an interview with you? Like really nervous. And then he was like, oh yeah, man, let's do it. Like that'd be awesome. And I was like, oh wow, he's like a really, really cool, nice guy. And so I just think that's, that was something that was fun to me, was seeing the guys on the ice and then getting to meet them off the ice and just how different it really is.
It feels like a good segue to our next little segment here, because that reminds me of meeting Justin Portillo. I know Justin's reputation in leagues around the United States, and his reputation for being a stellar fighter, and for not taking really anything from anybody. And then, of course, I meet him, and he's probably the nicest guy on the team, the way that he's treated me thus far. But that leads us to a little game that we're going to play here, Ren. We're going to compare players for the two teams. I'm going to bring up an Athens Rock Lobster, try to tell you a little bit more about their reputation, and maybe you can give me a comparison with an Ice Dog in an answer. Do you think you could do that?
I think so. Let's do it.
Perfect. So we'll start with no one else other than Justin Portillo, a tough, aggressive, powerhouse player known to drop the gloves. Who's the quickest comparison to that on the Ice Dogs?
I think it's tough because in club hockey, they don't really allow you to drop the gloves the same way. Still, guys push around, push each other, after the whistle, some pushing and shoving. So it's still very much part of the game and part of the culture. I would say the guy that when I look down at the ice and I always see chirping or pushing guys around after the play, maybe they get a little close to the goalie, is Declan Conway. He's always, letting the other team know that he's there.
Very, very funny that Declan Conway is a player on the UGA Ice Dogs. Obviously, also a player that has the same name in the FPHL as him, Monroe Moccasins, Declan Conway. Just a funny little coincidence there. Next up, we have Garrett Molan, a quick guy, goal scorer, fun to watch, a leader. Anyone like Garrett on the team?
I would say that summarizes a lot of the players on this team in general. There are so many guys who are really great scorers. I think UGA's offense, UGA's defense as well is really good, but for just a guy who gets goals consistently and is always around, I would say Ryan Bailey is definitely one of them. Like I said, he leads the team in points. I think Evan Parente more is probably a faster skater. He does really great on the forecheck. And he leads the team in assists this season. So also, a general scorer, because UGA's style, they don't get unassisted goals very often. So him being able to produce, I think, also makes him very similar to Moran in that sense.
And then the last player I have is Josh Rosenzweig, and obviously he's a phenomenal goaltender. But the reason why I ask about Josh is because everyone I ask on the team says that Rosie is the funniest guy on the team. So maybe who do you think is the funniest guy on the Ice Dogs?
That's a great question. I think that in any hockey locker room, there's going to be guys with big personalities. I would say a guy that I've had probably the funniest interactions with has been Evan Moore. I got to interview him back earlier this season, and he gave some really great and really hysterical insight into the game that they were playing. And then I also saw him at the Georgia-Florida football game, and he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, do you remember me?" And I was like, "Yeah, I remember you." How could I forget?
Well, Ren, it's been a pleasure talking to you about UGA hockey as well as the upcoming CHS playoffs, which take place through February 7th through the 9th in Akins Ford Arena. Make sure you catch Ren and his crew's broadcast on UGA Hockey, their YouTube channel. That's the exclusive streaming home for the UGA Ice Dawgs. Ren, it's been a pleasure talking with you, man.
Thank you so much. I love what hockey has come to this city, with the Rock Lobsters and with UGA Hockey as well.